Why is recovery so important?
You can't just lean in and attack everything all the time. Maybe on the day you think you want to bang iron, if you're really listening to yourself, maybe doing something a little gentler, going to meditation or breathing or yoga. Sauna, I think it really keeps showing up as one of the number one kings. So if we increase that capacity where we can be in that sauna longer, I do think it translates also to on the field, on the court. And there's a lot of data suggesting how good it is for your mitochondria and for your overall metabolic health.
Gabby Reece is a volleyball legend, a trailblazer in health and fitness, New York Times bestselling author, wife, and mother. And she's the host of the wildly popular Gabby Reece Show. I want to talk to you about something that isn't discussed enough, because especially being individuals who love to train, who love the physical aspect of life, we don't place enough value and intention on recovery. Let's start off by talking about recovery, why it's critical for our health, our fitness, our performance. Why is recovery so important?
That's a great question. It's funny, active recovery, right? When I was coming up, it was like, oh, I have a day off. And then as I got older, probably in my 40s, it was, oh, I'm going to participate in my recovery so I can heal and actually perform better. And I think what happens is, it's so interesting. We have to get people going, right? So, because we were just talking about biology. So the natural instinct to conserve, relax, do nothing is part of what we're doing. Because you'd chill and then you go full throttle and hopefully catch something or work really hard and then you'd recover. But what I started to really learn later in life was just training and doing, and kind of once people get going and then they become obsessive or they just pound their bodies, you're really taking a lot of things off the table. Whether it's your quality of sleep, your ability to perform maybe at a higher level throughout a week or a month versus sort of this steady performance that a lot of people will get because they're not recovering. They won't have this room to make these recoveries. Emotionally, I think it really kicks our butt. It shortens our fuse. I think our hormones, our cortisol, all of these kind of biological things that occur when we don't get that chance to really restore and rest. And we don't give it enough value. I think we can only give it value, though, when we have the other end of the spectrum. And then the other side of that is, I see a lot of people living in a way that is really difficult, right? They're running around, they're dropping kids off, they're working really hard. We're on our telephones. Maybe we're not eating in a supportive way. We're, drinking coffee to stimulate to get enough energy. Then maybe a lot of people are taking something to sleep, and they get in this cycle. And so also kind of the emotional recovery. Because when you're just in fourth, fifth, or sixth gear, depending on your vehicle, I think being in those high RPMs doesn't give you, we were just talking about, that distance between stimulus and response. So I think it's on so many levels and you have so many tools. Is it your food? Is it your sleep? Is it your emotionality? You can't just lean in and attack everything all the time. And then, things like ice or sauna or swimming in water instead of, maybe on the day you think you want to bang iron, if you're really listening to yourself, maybe doing something a little gentler, going to meditation or breathing or yoga. So I think it's so exciting because there's so many tools.
Yeah. As soon as you said attacking everything, like I was like, but I want to.
Yeah.
I want to do that. And so being able to reel it back in, listen to your body and see the value in it, to, again, focus on recovery, do a sauna session or, just doing things a little bit different can be challenging for a personality type like mine. And I want to ask you specifically about recovery in regards to getting better, like physically performing better, changing your body, because world-class athlete I have sitting in front of me. Same thing with your husband.
I was a world-class athlete.
Stop it. It's there. It's in the DNA. And you've consistently worked with some of the greatest athletes in the world as well. Like they're just coming through and training with you guys all the time. So how important is that recovery piece in, you know, that physical change that we're looking for? Because again, we get focused on doing the thing, like we break our bodies down and we miss out on the other part.
Yeah, I think we're working also from a place of fear and from a cultural message, right? So let's take a person who is, let's say you have an athlete who is still competing. They have to maybe have a different strategy, right? Because they're going to perform on a Saturday or a Sunday, or we were just talking about tennis. Maybe they have a 2-week period where they have to perform. So they have prehab and rehab and all these things built in to try to buy small windows for recovery. But if we're talking about a person who's hard charging and has training in their day-to-day life, but they don't maybe have a season that they're competing for or event per se. I think that culturally we're told more is more. And we really hold up kind of that grind mentality, which I personally really understand. But what we're missing is, if we want to be not only better and get those small bumps and improvements, and let's say with aging, maintain a level of strength, because maybe, you can get stronger still as you age, but if you can stay as strong, that might actually be the win, right? And so I think it's learning to have the confidence and to know when it's time to back off and take that the value of doing less or taking the sauna will actually, for your long-term story and goal, make you more badass. And a lot of times people just lock and load and they're competing, they're talking to their friends, they're looking at they're tracking everything and they're saying, well, the only way for me to get gains is to crush myself. And I think it's really antithetical to long-term performance and gains. And I live with somebody who is 61 and still rolling in their seasons. And their season is different because it's like, be ready, but you don't know when. So that's even a little different, where you go, feel really good today. I'm going to go very, very hard, break my body down, tear some muscles, do some stuff. And then I'm going to have the confidence that doing a breathing practice and sauna and making sure my food is dialed in is going to serve me so that in 3 more days, I can go crush it again. People don't have enough of a relationship with the practice over an extended period of time to say, yeah, that's the way to do it. And competition. That's the problem. I think for men, it might even be something tricky, because if you're training side by side with other people, you think, oh, I'm going to lose a step, or I'm not as, good as that person because I'm going to choose to back off. Yeah. It's very hard. I've gotten so much better at it. And it's weird. You have to also calibrate not becoming lazy, because sometimes I'll be like, oh, I need a recovery day. But part of it is maybe I'm actually emotionally burnt out and not physically burnt out. And so it's also kind of staying honest with yourself about, well, which thing is this? Because actually, what do I really need to work on? Is this a physical thing? Is this an emotional thing? Is this a lack of sleep? I'm not on my sleep. So it's also understanding the nuance even within that.
Already something is jumping out. There's a big difference, especially today in our culture, to be aware of this, between relaxation and restoration. So and not that there's anything wrong with relaxation, by the way, we need some of that. But if we're actually wanting to perform at our best, to restore ourselves so that we could show up and get the gains that we're looking for, we've got to implement proactively restoration practices. Yeah. And since I have you here and I've been to your wellness wonderland, what are some of these practices for us to be mindful of for that restoration, for that recovery?
So I'm going to say that, a lot of times you could come to my house and be like, oh, you're the most fortunate person to have these tools here, right? The other side of this is these are priorities for for Laird and I. And so rather than maybe a certain trip or a certain thing, I would have a red bed. Or, we just recently, Laird got his second hip, and we got a real hyperbaric, like a hard one it's a 2-seater. It's like a cockpit. And so I just want to say it's taken us years and years, but so these are some of the tools we have. We've had for, 12 to 15 years saunas, old practice. What I would say to people is hard to fit them in your house, expensive. I've heard people doing it with friends, or now gyms, and there's recovery centers everywhere. You can become a member, right? Sauna, I think, it really keeps showing up as one of the number one kings. If you want data, I know you love all the data, just the all-cause mortality and cognitive, function and dementia, and all these things. It just really shows up detoxing, muscle recovery, heat shock proteins. I mean, the list goes on and on. I love Rhonda Patrick's work in this area. So I probably sauna. I bundle it with my pool training because for me to go and put a bathing suit on and, whatever, go out in the sauna, that's harder for me. Laird's better at it. So I bundle it with my pool training. So I use it as a way that, okay, I'm already wet and gross and in a bikini. And so let's just go in there. That's how I do it. Ice now, we have cold plunges. I will say that I've learned, if someone has a thyroid issue, maybe the ice isn't their friend. But pretty much for everyone else, it seems to be pretty good. But again, bundle that with heat. Makes it bearable. Get hot first, then go in there and then go heat up again. And also just that learning how to thermoregulate is a great practice for us in general. When we're cold, we can warm ourselves up. And when we're hot, we know our bodies are more efficient at cooling themselves down. And we also burn I think we burn some of the most calories throughout our days thermoregulating in life in general. Then you're not always worried about like, oh, I need a code or, things like that. And for an athlete, the great thing about a sauna is I think what crushes most of us as athletes was when we start to overheat. So if we increase that capacity where we can be in that sauna longer, I do think it translates also to on the field, on the court, and so forth. We have the red bed. I like to, when I can, do the red bed prior to hyperbaric because it's sort of like boosting the body and then oxygenating the system. And this actually came from somebody that was doing protocols with friends who were dealing with illness. Because I think a lot of times people will think, oh, they're just into raw. But I'm also the idea of health, well-being, is really great. So we'll do that. Now, there's another tool that is not expensive and doesn't take up a lot of room, which is like a hypoxico. So it's just a tank, kind of like training at altitude, but you lay down and you can put on the tension and you put the mask on. And they have these really incredible protocols where you learn how to breathe in a hypoxic state. And there's a lot of data suggesting how good it is for your mitochondria and for your overall metabolic health. And this is something you can do laying down. It's a little uncomfortable at first because you feel, what do they call it? Air hunger a little bit. But again, even that practice of, I feel uncomfortable, I'm just going to calm down and relax into that. So those are some of the tools. And then we have the pool that we use for training. But then there's a lot of things in the pool, training in water. So lymphatic drainage, because you're in that pressure. So your system, you're draining your system, you're in pressure all the time. So your muscles are not only sore, but you're kind of moving everything around at a much more accelerated rate. I have a friend of mine who's a neuroscientist who also talks about when water brushes on the back of your neck in a forceful way. So when we're jumping from the bottom to the top and water is over the brain, it also can push the fluid that you use when you sleep that rinses your brain at night.
Like lymphatic fluid.
It pushes through there. So I think, and you're outside in sunlight. So that's the other thing that people, especially if you're in a city, I know it's harder, But the deeper we go into all of these sort of little niche practices, you realize that the number one thing you could do for your health is to go out and look at the sun. All of the things that the sun does for your system, we don't give it value because it's free. It feels primal, so it can't be that special. How do I hack it? And really, the deeper I've gone into all of this learning is right back to, hey, if I can look at the sun, and obviously people talk about sunrise and even sunset. This is a very, very powerful tool, maybe one of the most powerful for your health. So we use all of these. I try to pretend like I have to make an appointment because otherwise I will never get into it. It's like people who have a home gym. You don't use it. But if I make an appointment or I have a class, I'll go and drive to it. So actually, I try to almost make it like it's an appointment. Like, oh, I'm doing this at this time. So I utilize these tools.
Love it. I love it. So you talked about basically contrast therapy. Mm-hmm. And I want to ask you a little bit more about, you said the S word a couple of times, but I want to ask you more about it. It's not shit.
Oh.
Sleep.
Yeah.
Sleep. Mentioning, this interaction with the sun and how this is something we evolved with, getting all of our, the circadian rhythms.
Yeah.
This is one of those areas I've been talking about for years and years and years. And I know that it's still to come as far as like a focus in medicine being circadian medicine.
Yeah.
But with that being said, a part of that circadian rhythm, a large part of that is regulating sleep and our sleep and wake cycles.
Yeah.
And so how important, again, working with all these athletes, your lifestyle, how important is sleep and like, what are you doing in that domain and what are you coaching for people?
Well, listen, these are adults that I deal with. And so it's more about, we all have the information. And so, for example, we know like a few drinks before bed can, disrupt your sleep. But going back to the sun, that's how your melatonin, it's sort of 14 hours from that point, from which your body will go, oh, in 12 or 14 hours, we'll release some melatonin. So if people can start thinking about their sleep earlier in the day, right? So not caffeinating past a certain hour, maybe they say 2:00. I actually think for most of us, it would be before that, kind of minimize some of those drinks. And if you have a late afternoon lull, I really like nicotine. And I like ketones if it's 3-4 o'clock and you've got a solid 2 more hours of work. So it's finding which tools could give you that boost.
So nicotine and ketones, so you're talking about like a fatty cigarette?
Oh, no. Sorry. No, like I use a brand called Athletic Nicotine. It's a pouch. It's a low dose because the whole thing is not having smoke to your lungs and in low dose because it is addicting, right? So I use a 1.5 or a 3. And when I want that kind of little boost, but later in the day, I'm a terrible sleeper. I always have been. I've been since I was a kid, hyper alert. So it's something I'm always dealing with. And people talk about sleep hygiene all the time, cold rooms, no light, things like that. I believe in that, but I go to the bed probably within same time frame, maybe 30 minutes here or there if we're getting crazy and like we're playing games or something. But Laird likes to be in bed by 9. I personally am like, that's too early, but I'm in bed.
Yeah. Compromises within a relationship.
Well, also when the other person has the more valid point,
yeah,
because I don't want to, and I put that in quotes, he's still right. So I yield to it because I know it's better. So I think for a lot of females, that's oftentimes the only time they get that pocket for themselves to read or do something else. So I will kind of weigh that out and look at that. And then the other part of it is I heard of a couple great tricks. If people are with a partner, is to actually, because I like sleeping in the same bed, but you hear about people doing sleep divorce. It's very popular. Actually, just have different sheets and blankets. So when they roll or you roll, you don't disrupt each other. That really can positively support better sleep. So you're together. So you have that silent energy exchange, but you're not, disrupting each other. So cold room, same time. I get up around the same time. And just kind of navigating. Sometimes I have not anxiety, because that's a strong word, but I am aware that I'm not a great sleeper. But I'll take a little magnesium before bed and just say, tonight's going to be a great night for sleep. Because that, especially when you have a new baby, a lot of times you go, why bother? Why am I getting into bed? I'm not even going to sleep. So it also depends where you are in life. But it's going to bed at the same time, getting that sunlight, and sort of figure out what is am I worrying? Okay, write it down. Is it my hormones? For middle-aged women, that will kill your sleep, right? Progesterone, a lack of it. So it's sort of just understanding and dealing with it. Because a lot of times we'll just be like, oh, I'll just keep rolling. I'll just have more coffee or more something. And I think in the long run, it can really get you.
Yeah. It sounds like just, again, being aware of your temperament and just doing what you can, but also having some balance and not being too hard on yourself, because it's very easy, again, knowing like this thing is so important, I'm supposed to do this thing, and it becomes another stressor, you know? And so, and again, I've had the opportunity to work with many people over the years, and, just having some, just being a little softer with yourself.
I think being anxious, I don't know, unless it's like you're jumping out of the way of a moving vehicle, is really good ever. I think it's really natural, and it's I feel I can worry about my children, and I think it's good to honor it and say thank you, and like, I'm going to choose something else. I'm going to choose a different response. And around sleep, it's a big one. There's somebody I listen to a lot that's very, he's sort of pretty harsh. But I think he's right. And this goes back to the sunlight, which is Dr. Jack Kruse talks a lot about the sun. And, we put all of these things in front of some of the most important things. And the sleep it's got to be up there as, equal, to 1, 2, or 3.
For sure. For sure. You mentioning that exposure to sun, and especially again in the early part of the morning, and really setting the stage for sleep at night. There was a study, in my first book, this was 11 years ago when I first, reviewed this study, and it was published in Innovations in Clinical Neuroscience. And they found that getting exposure to sun in the early part of the day helped cortisol levels to drop at night as well. So, and cortisol and melatonin can kind of be at odds, like that stress. And so it's really, it is like the opening act for good sleep at night. And that was the sentiment that I put into the book and into popular culture, which is a great night of sleep starts the moment you wake up in the morning.
That's right. And I think I can sleep when I die. We've gone through all of that. Right. And it's really about, it's so much more than, can you? Of course you can. You could go without the sleep, and you could probably run your whole life like that. But how do you feel? How are you responding? How do you recover? I think my mind gets jumpy when I don't sleep as well. I think I'm much more deliberate and present in my relationships, in everything. So I think sometimes we think, oh, well, I get away with it. It's like, yeah, you do, but there's sort of all these other invisible pockets that I think it would support us even more.
Yeah. I think this story, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, is based on sleep deprivation.
Well, it's the number one, right? If we want to torture somebody,
it's
the sleep.
Yeah.
So I think, and now listen, if somebody's a rock star or a night worker, right, or an athlete that's competing at 10 o'clock at night, you do the best you can. Because again, to put stress around any of it, I think it's counterproductive. It's like, hey, this is what you're doing. So what does the rest of your life and day look like to either mitigate some of the damage, or to support you that when you do sleep, these are great hours.
Yeah. Something else, and I'm so grateful that you brought this up because it's such a big part of recovery and just our life in general, is the emotional burnout potential. Because we do not, as a culture, really give credit to how much our emotions, stress, just mental, the weight of things can impact our physical health, right? When we have a physical problem, it's just like we look at something mechanistic for the vast majority of us. But I've found so often, even, our mutual friend that you introduced me to, Maya, recently, she shared this again, and looking at how she had this physical manifestation of this issue. And after talking with her, I see this emotional component was such a big part of it. And so managing the emotional burnout, I want to talk more about that, because this is something that I feel like a lot of people listening are dealing with or have dealt with. And to arm yourself with more awareness around this, that it's not just, restoration with all these physical practices, but restoring yourself emotionally as well.
I was listening to something where they were talking about perception versus perspective. And I think sometimes, again, this is very quiet, unsexy, not celebrated. You don't get paid more for it out front usually. It's like we don't teach our children. We don't learn I didn't learn, right, how to try to choose how to respond and how to look at something in a situation and ask myself, what outcome am I looking for? And how best would I react or act? What would I say that would get me to that outcome? And I feel like sometimes a lot of us are running around like it's a runaway train, and we're just moving into pockets in our work and our personal relationships. And the reason I have a physical practice and do all this is so I can get to this part, so that I can emotionally try to be as honest with myself and with the people around me, as kind to myself and as kind to the people around me. Those practices, that sleep, that food, that's really so I can do that. Because that just makes everything else easier.
Right.
And it's slower. It takes restraint. It takes a certain kind of discipline, because it feels good sometimes just to MF somebody and just be like, yeah, I showed them. It's like, yeah, what did they say? It's the best 30 seconds, of something that you're going to say, and then put that fire out for 3 hours. But what really made me look at it also was, I read somewhere that you could have like an emotional outburst, like in a parking lot. Maybe it's by yourself in your car and you're flipping out. Somebody took your space and they didn't see your blinker on, right? It's just you, unless I'm going to get out and really get into it with somebody. But that the hormone damage or reaction or, for my body was like 3 hours to come down from that. So for that 30 seconds that I got to just let all of my frustration out, because it might not have been about the parking. It might have been about a million other things. And I needed that place to just let it out. I was going to pay for 3 hours hormonally in my system. And when I read that, I thought, maybe I could honor myself a little. I could do a little better. And if there was stuff I needed to deal with or conversations I needed to have, or just go take a walk to open the valve, that I could find the way to do it without further hurting myself.
This is so good. It's so good. Okay. Recently, we'll just say I'm driving down Ventura Boulevard.
Yeah.
All right. Iconic songs about this. But it's 2 lanes each way. Mm-hmm. And in LA, which I don't remember seeing this in St. Louis, but there's just like random in the streets crosswalks.
Oh, yeah.
For pedestrians. It'll be like a flashing yellow light. Just it's not at a stoplight. Flashing yellow. They're on their phone.
That's my favorite.
They're on their phone walking across Ventura Boulevard. I am in the left lane. Mm-hmm. There's a car on my right lane. They don't see them. All right. And they're going a little bit above the speed limit. And this person, their head is down. They're just walking across the street. Mm-hmm. I'm hitting my horn like my ancestors went into hitting this horn. And I got the driver next to me to wake up and to catch them. This person, I saved their life. Yeah. All right. And I feel this stress in my body. And I'm just like, of course, I'm saying all things. You idiot. What are you doing?
You're talking about their parenting.
Stupid phone, all this stuff. Yeah. And then because of the practice, I quickly reeled myself back in and I laughed about it. Everything is okay.
Yeah.
None of these people are going to interact with me again, but I can carry this with me. And I was able to like laugh it off and to actually like find the humor in it, you know, which again, some shit just don't be funny. But I found like, Shawn, like just, it's okay. Let it go. Like this isn't helping anything. Something good just happened, you know, like an accident was avoided.
Yes.
And it's okay.
I think you need to have that gear though. That's what the whole thing is for.
Right. Yes.
So I think we need to have that urgency. We need to be able to think clearly and move accordingly because stuff happens. So I think it's great that that you could do it. And then how do you find the way to downregulate as quickly as possible?
Yes.
Now, if it's just some person pissing you off and it isn't life and death, then try to avoid that big spike. But if stuff's happening, we need to have that gear, you know, and just the tool to be like, oh, okay, you know, what is it? Longer exhale than inhale, downregulate, and just be like, oh, thank goodness, that idiot person whose parents didn't tell them. I tell my girls all the time, if you ever cross the street and you're looking at your phone, I'm like, that's what I'll come for, you know? Like, I'd rather you steal my car and joyride than you walk across a crosswalk looking at your phone. Because you're trusting and assuming that everyone is paying attention, and you're, you know, sort of foregoing the number one thing, which is pay attention. And it's on you to be able to survive, because not everyone's paying attention.
That part, yeah.
You got to pay attention.
I've been a lot of places. LA is like the worst for that.
They're going to stop. It's a crosswalk. Can't you see the paint? That paint will stop the car for sure. It's like,
you wouldn't have the audacity to hit me.
And you don't think any driver's on their phone,
right?
You know?
Oh man.
I went to a camp years ago in Italy with the technology and like maybe 10 years ago, a little less. And those self-driving cars were there. And I thought, this is so ridiculous, you know, freedom. And I like to drive my car. And why would you give that up? And now after being on the road and literally looking in all the lanes and seeing people on their phone, I'm like, yeah, great, get them. Wow. Yeah, because people are they're not doing what they're doing ever, right? They're eating, they're on their phone, they're talking, they're on their phone, they're driving, it's like we're always doing something else. We're here, we meet, we have dinner, but then somehow I'm texting someone else for something for tomorrow. So I think that's another thing that I think makes it a lot easier on us hormonally, which is just try your best to do what you're doing. And then do the next thing. And multitasking it's a myth anyway. Yeah. Right. So to the best of your ability, you know, I know life is busy, but if you can do what you're doing, and if your ability to do what you're doing is quickly, right, great, but try, because I think it's easier on your system.
Yeah. This is so good. Just to take a step back really quickly, you said how valuable and important it is to have that go button, right? To have that, even, you know, that warrior ready if something goes down. And this is the thing too, a lot of our practices are training us to be able to handle certain situations. And you also talked about the importance of being able to downregulate. And I think that might be one of the most valuable things in our world today, especially today, because I think, again, nature does that automatically. You know, animals, they downregulate, right? Threat is gone. You get back, literally shake it off, Taylor Swift it, and you get back to doing your elk thing. Yeah. Shout out to the elk from Jamie. But with that being said, and also our ancestors too, you know, there would be threats, there'd be things that happen. But today we're just constantly inundated with things to stress us out. And we don't have a cultural value of being able to downregulate and to self-maintain, self-regulate. And the thing is, you have it all. Like, it's built into you to be able to do it. And so I remember this quote from Kelly Starrett. We might have collabed on the quote, but he said that we're very good at going 0 to 100. Yeah. And we're not very good at going 100 to 0. Yeah. Right? We can go to 0 to 100 real quick, but not being able that. It wasn't Kelly Starrett and me. It was Kelly Starrett and Drake. I smashed them together. But being able to go from 0 to 100, 100 to 0 to downregulate. Yeah. And so let's talk a little bit more about that. Like you mentioned earlier, before we even got rolling, about a negativity bias, right? That certain people tend to have a negativity bias that can get us really amped up. And over time, you found ways that you're able to like wrangle your mind, down-regulate, calm down, and to keep things in perspective.
You know, it's interesting. And I think we get addicted to we sort of, it's a permission to really just let it all out, because we're not letting it out. So we can use hysteria, we can use anger, we can use rage, we can use aggression to like get that feeling. And it makes us feel alive and on. And I feel like if we had those put healthfully in our lives, we would then welcome and embrace this idea of downregulation, because we wouldn't need to be in that other thing. So we're living unnaturally, right? Our biology is still the same. And we live in a world that, I'll use young men as an example. You know, it's like the neutering of, right? The flattening of, where it's like not getting out there, rabble rousing, roughhousing, getting cut, you know, chasing stuff, doing stuff. It's just kind of, And so our biology for all of us is yelling for, man, I need earth. And so I think we use those opportunities to get that and stay there. And then and because it's not done in a natural way, it's usually done in an artificial way. We don't understand the importance. If you're chasing an animal, or, you know, feeling like someone from another tribe was threatening you, you would embrace the opportunity to downregulate. Like, oh, we're good. It's okay. So I think we're not aware of how, I mean, obviously we are, but our biology is mismatched in so many subtle ways too. And it's been a great observation for me to live with Laird, who has these gears very big and deep. You know, like if there's a threat or something is happening, this is a person who knows how to activate straight away, and then, okay, turn off and go on. And so it really made me think about how we don't live in worlds where we get that opportunity, and we're not going to seek it out, right? That's hard. And also, how do you seek those things out? It's tricky. So now we've gotten flattened, and so we use parking spaces and you know, conflict with a person over nothing to be able to experience that feeling. It's part of being alive.
Yeah, yeah. So how can we proactively, again, it's not that these feelings are bad, you know, they're there oftentimes, again, for a reason. Mm-hmm. How do we express these things or metabolize them so they're not spilling out on people that, you know, who are honestly a lot of times innocent bystanders?
Unassuming. Yeah. You know, I think it's hard because you don't want to artificially insert these things. But I think, for example, just being out in nature would provide opportunities that would be unexpected, that would make you have to be a little alert. I think even trying something new, let's take a jujitsu class, for example. There's sort of a time maybe that you would feel scared, or you wouldn't know what to do, or dominated, or you would actually be in a situation where maybe you're locked up, and rather than pressing, which would be the worst thing you could do, you'd have to in that moment think and go, what should I do here? So you'd be exercising it in different ways. Mm-hmm. I think for young people to, you know, when I was a kid, it was like go outside and play. And, you know, you think you're going to fall off a tree 75 times. Like, I thought I almost died. Of course, maybe you didn't. But just that feeling of, oh, that was scary. I think is so important for us, instead of feeling like artificial things are a threat, because they're not. And so, like, you know, the idea of I'm offended, it's like, okay, you're offended, you know? So I think nature would be good, trying new things. That's why I also think, in controlled combat sports with a sensei is very good, because there's all these kind of hierarchies and like just dynamics that allow people to experience all kinds of things in a really productive way.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. This just reminded me of something, because competition is a big part of how we evolve, right? And being able to test ourselves, being able to find out things about ourselves. It's one of the ways that even, in the same thing in the animal kingdom, it's how with just lion cubs, and they're like roughhousing each other, fighting. They're really practicing.
Yeah.
Right. And being able to prepare to be able to survive and to handle yourself in this world. And so we do the same thing, and this is why it's so important and valuable to have that competition. And you've been around some of the greatest competitors ever. And I want to ask you about the psychology. Like, what do you notice about these phenomenal competitors? Somebody, when I left your house the other day, you mentioned Noah being at your house.
Joking.
And then I went through like a stream of thought, because I play him on the all-time Bulls when I'm playing my son in 2K, which is, that competition can be a little fierce as well.
Yeah.
But, again, just you've been around all these incredible athletes from different domains, right? From the Olympics to basketball to you name it. How, like, what are some of the things, and I'm asking because if we're interested in taking that on, right, in how we're showing up in our own lives, and also there are many athletes who listen to this show, and there are many parents of athletes, grandparents of athletes. What are some of the things that you notice about their psychology that makes them so great?
Okay. There's a couple things. First, we'll start basic. Nothing ever goes as planned, right? And so what you see pretty commonly with athletes, Joakim, Christian McCaffrey comes over, Kawhi Leonard, Jaylen Brown, like serious people. And nothing goes as planned. But what a lot of them will do is, if you give them, let's say you say, hey, I'll give you some tips, instructions. So if this is what's happening, this is what you'd be trying to do. And if it doesn't go as planned, what you see is every single one of them will revert to, okay, well, what should I be trying to do? They don't dive into, oh, I'm uncomfortable, this isn't going the way it's supposed to. It goes right to, what should I be trying to do? So there is a good decision making in the stressful moment. That's why they can obviously play at that level, because it never goes as planned, and you're playing against people as talented as you that have the same goal as you, right? So they're there to win as well. The other trait over and over is the level of persistence. So, I didn't get it, I'll try again. I still didn't get it, I'll try again. And whether they all use different fuel, some will they get calmer and more, ninja-like. Some will anger is a great emotion in the right way. It's an activator. Some will use, like Joakim is very passionate, right? So he would just, lean more into it. A guy like Kawhi Leonard or Jaylen Brown, they're not using that type of energy. So it's seeing people go, oh, here's discomfort, here's failure. Yeah, great. I'm going right towards it. I'm not going to avoid it. I'm not going to make an excuse. I'm going to keep at it and figure it out. And the other idea would be making new mistakes. So if something isn't working, they're not just going to keep doing the same thing. They'll either ask a question, get help, try something different. It's kind of like fighting with your spouse. It's like, let's have a new fight. Like, who wants to have the same fight for 10 years or 5 years or 1 year or one day? Okay, let's figure that out and let's move on to something else. And so I see that. And I see sort of an acceptance or a humility to not getting it, not being good at it. It's like, this doesn't deter them from going forward. A lot of us are scared of failure. That's why we don't want to try new things. I experience this myself from time to time, for sure. It's like, hey man, that's going to be uncomfortable and I'm going to look bad and maybe I can't do it. And I'm going to be in a room full of people who can do it. And versus, you know what? Cool. Because the other thing that's so interesting that we forget is to go, and Laird talks about this all the time, to go from novice to proficient is big. It's great. So steep and fun. To go from proficient or great to mastery is like this big. It's percentages. These guys are now working at the level of percentages.
Right.
So we don't celebrate how good it feels to not be able to do something and to be able to do it a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of athletes also have enough of a sense of humor about themselves, and they know the formula. They've been through it. You've been wildly embarrassed and you survived. You woke up the next day. You've learned how to win, so you understand that formula. You've lost and realized that's where, unfortunately, all the lessons really came. So I think that there's so many things that go into athletics that you're practicing all the time. Now, I think it also helps if you're on a team, because you're in a sisterhood or brotherhood and you look next to each other and you're like, ugh. You know, doing it sometimes together, that's where that community aspect comes in, can be really helpful. Because on the days you personally don't maybe have it, that you just want to go, F it, I don't even want to do this. You know, you kind of draft off the energy of your teammates, or having a great coach who knows exactly what to say to you, to activate you, to get you to do it. So that's why I really enjoy and I'm inspired working around and near and with athletes, because they remind me of how much greatness is in all of us. And listen, I see certain athletes where their God-given genetics is off the charts. You know, we were joking one day, Kawhi Leonard, if anyone's ever seen him in person, you know, his lower half of his body, like you could train your whole life. Good luck. You'll never be as powerful. That came from the gods, you know, because he's doing what he's supposed to be doing. But typically still there is so much greatness in all of us, and it doesn't have to be expressed athletically. It's like when we can dig deep, and when we can try things or do things that we didn't think we could, that's in everybody.
Yeah. I was surprised that you led off with things never go as planned. And it makes complete sense.
Think about a game.
Yes.
You can call plays, but you know, the defense or the offense or whatever, they have other ideas. And that's life. Yeah. It never goes. That's why adaptability for me and performance, I think it's the number one. It's your ability to go, oh, I had this plan, they did this, I'm going to do that in that split second. You know, it's in parenting, it's being a CE, it's being the boss, it's everywhere all the time. So how quickly can you make the right choice? And that's the other thing. Can you make the right decisions in that moment of pressure? And that is really, besides, you know, obviously you talk about like certain athletes, they're giant, but there's a lot of giant people that are good athletes, but they can't handle that and they don't make those decisions in that moment.
So true. So true. It's so funny. Like you said it out loud and now I see it so clearly, because I think a lot of people who are aspirational about being great, they just think that greatness is just, you know, they're just showing up and just being great, but it's really adversity. The adversity is the greatness. And you are 100% signing up for adversity if you're going to be at that level. Like, to say it never goes according to plan is so true. Like, you don't know. I mean, of course, there are patterns, there are things. You don't know exactly what the other team is going to do what the other play, how all the pieces are going to happen. I was just watching this Joe Montana documentary. It's on, I think it's on the Peacock. All right, there's so many freaking apps. But I just remember, of course, like growing up, and first of all, he's got the greatest football name ever. I mean, like how? Joe Montana. But the story, like it's riddled with so much adversity. Like this kid was like, he was like 7th on the football team as far as like when he went to Notre Dame. He was 7th on the depth chart, right? And he got in the game and like brought them back from, it was like some crazy sequence of events to put him in that position. And he brought them back to a victory, and he did it twice. But then he had this terrible injury and was out for like a year, right? This kid does all this to claw his way into this position, and then it's just gone, right? And what all of the resilience that it took for him to come back, and not to mention the high school experience. And he was always kind of known, poked fun at for being so lanky, like especially his lower body, opposite Kawhi Leonard's polar opposite. Yeah. All right. And he found a way to make the most of what he had. But what really, as you said this just now in this conversation, the thing that makes him stand out the most, and why a lot of people consider him the GOAT. Tom Brady is in the documentary, by the way, saying he was my GOAT.
Can you imagine?
Right?
Yeah, that was his town.
He was there at Candlestick Park when the catch happened. Like Tom Brady was there as a little kid.
Yeah.
And he was terrified. Like there's a picture of him being scared as shit because like his mom's like holding him because everybody's going crazy. Yeah. But what made him so great was the adversity that he overcame. And he was so great in those moments when all the odds were stacked against him. And for him, it was fun.
Yeah, that's hard. And I was going to say there are a few athletes, very few, I think, that they revel in that, man. They love it. They're like, oh, now it's getting sticky, you know? Yep. And they're more playful, maybe, self-belief. And there's something else that I think maybe great artists, you're only going to be able to really do it your way. I can't be you and you can't be me. And so the other thing I think you learn in sports and in other areas of life is you have to know yourself well enough to know how you do it. Because I even say this about my game in volleyball. I was so late to volleyball, and I was very, very good at a couple of things. And I just leaned into that. I made a career of that. And I wasn't going to, so I think it's understanding who you are and the way you do it. Like somebody might get into this stressful thing and they need to ramp up and like, let's go. And they're all verbal and talky and all this stuff. And other guys might drop down, down, down and quiet and slow it down. But it's also the confidence to go, this is me. This is how I do it. This is my game. And I'm just going to try to do that the best I can. And I think in life, especially for young people, the world is so loud with social media and other that we think we got to be like everybody else that we see and mimic versus going back in and go, wait a second, who am I? What am I interested in? What would I be good at? And trusting that. And I think a lot of people who are good at whatever they do, they get a relationship with that.
Yeah, for sure. Oh my goodness. All right. I jotted them down.
Okay.
Things never go as planned. Number 2, persistence. Number 3, making new mistakes. Number 4, courage to fail, having the courage to fail. And then number 5 was, being able to have some humor and to be able to not take yourself so seriously. Like embarrassing things are going to happen, and to have a spirit to move beyond that. Yeah. And so all these things are so valuable, especially again for people who parents of young athletes, the athletes listening, to embrace the adversity piece, to know going into it, like that's the name of the game. And to, if you can, even find a way to look forward to it. Sometimes you might find yourself so far ahead of things that you have to manufacture it. Like another person jumping to mind, Michael Jordan, like he would manufacture adversity. He's so far ahead of everybody. He would just create these slights in his mind, like, and I took that personally, I'll show you.
Oh yeah.
And, being able to go into it knowing that this is going to be, I'm going to face adversity, and it's going to require me to make certain decisions, to possibly go beyond what I think I'm capable of. But one of the biggest takeaways for me personally, and I can't wait to share this with my youngest son as well, is to know going into it that you're going to be up against something that is going to challenge you beyond what you're comfortable with, and look forward to it.
Yeah.
Have the audacity to look forward to it, because if you're going to be great, that's what you're going to face. If you're not, if you're choosing to just be mediocre and just play it safe, play down, that's fine, but if you're looking for greatness, adversity is built into the package every time.
And it's scary, right? It's really, it's like, oh, here we go again, that tension, even when you get ready to go do it, your body, you're like, oh, here we go, and then you maybe switch gears and go to something else. And that goes back to that fuel part, right? Everybody using different fuel to get it done. The other thing that's really important though, is you are going to be at a high level of whatever you're doing for a period of time. And the other thing to figure out though is where it should live and how not to let it kind of burn up your whole life. Because sometimes we open valves that we don't know how to control. And so it can so in a way, it's like a lot of the good gets lost because we also kind of crush our lives with it. And so the important thing is to find the place where it's healthy and good and it should exist, and when we should move away from it, and then that idea of pursuit of excellence. So what happens to a lot of athletes is, of course, you miss those apex moments, because it's like a note on an instrument. There's a beauty to it. It's so precise. And there's not a lot of opportunities in life to experience that. But there kind of is in different ways. It's quiet when you're in pursuit of excellence. So again, your practices in your life, your words, the way you treat people, all these things weirdly are also opportunities to be in pursuit of excellence. And it is really different than sport. And so sport always holds a special place. But I think you can sort of turn that into other areas of your life, because otherwise you'll be kind of sad or frustrated when you're not competing anymore, or there's something about that. So rather than it becoming that, it becomes this incredible place in school that you learned all these things that then you bring forth, hopefully, into anything you choose. It's like I tell young athletes, maybe they get a career that is cut short by a real injury. And I'm like, listen, but you're like a loaded gun. So what's your next target? Yeah. Because once you understand that, you can aim that in a lot of ways. Yeah.
So valuable. Yeah. I want to ask you about this really quickly, just in case people are not familiar.
Yeah.
We talked about, the athletes that you're working with and training with, and your training as well. These pool workouts. Oh. If you can give people like a little insight into what that looks like, what do you mean by that?
So years ago, we built a very large pool at our house. My husband is a surfer, and the waves he likes are large. And so he doesn't like to swim laps. But he's always in his off season, he was trying to figure out how to be better in the water. So kind of lo and behold, myself and a handful of kind of a ragtag team of us were his crash test dummies. And we ended up creating a curriculum called XPT, Trial and Error, which was basically deep water and shallow ways to be ballistic. So jumping in deep water, so you're not crushing your joints. So you're jumping in, like our pool's like 11 or 12 feet with these weights, but you get to take a breath in between. You're working horizontally, so hypoxically, so using less air, being more efficient with less air. And so there's probably 40 exercises or more. There's sequencing. So there's drills where I say, hey, listen, this is a patience drill. This is not a get after it drill. So task completion. So if I say to you, okay, we're going to go there and back with no breath with a dumbbell. if you think, okay, I'm going to go as fast as I can, no, it's task completion. So how hard you hold your weight, how open your eyes are. By the way, when you open your eyes wide and move side to side and process information, you're burning oxygen. You wouldn't know that out here because you have air. When you go in the pool, you know it very quickly. So you now are learning your state. You're understanding, oh, well, where are the leaks? Where's their tension? Because the water tells you very quickly. So there's so many opportunities to train the organism, not only ballistically, not hurting yourself. So I get a lot of athletes that are coming off of a Achilles injury or something, and that's the first place they can jump safely. And also that's an emotional thing. When you've hurt yourself, I have an artificial knee. It's scary to go back on the hard surface and start moving in that dynamic way. So the pool is also a great place to go, oh, I can be snappy, but I'm not going to hurt myself. So there's a lot to it. And it's really, really wonderful. And as you get older, I will say, it's a place you can work very, very hard. You can be with your friends. You can touch the curtain. You can hit that edge, but you don't have to damage yourself. And so it's really a great tool.
Awesome. Where can people get more information about that type of training? Mm-hmm. And also tell people about your show, which is so amazing.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Okay, so they can find pool training at xptlife.com. And if there's an athlete, and by the way, you don't have to be a professional athlete. We certainly, people DM me and I let them come over and I show them the training. Because it's meant to be shared. And then my show, it's, I'm interested in learning like you, but you and I had a conversation, and actually it's out this week, but you move so deep into the details and the data of performance. And I feel like I'm at a place where I want to have conversations with people where I can learn and hopefully make it really simple for people to have takeaways that they can hopefully help them here and there in their life, but also to remind people that this is an ongoing story. There is not one answer. There's not one way to move or to be or to breathe or, to eat, and that it is an ongoing, ever-changing story that I want to encourage people to keep looking at it and saying, okay, well, what do I need to change right now? How do I make changes or improvements? Because I want them to do it forever. And Laird and I are certainly in that pursuit. So it's just being a part of that conversation to help people, because I know people are overwhelmed. And besides our loved ones, I know without a doubt that our health is really the greatest thing that we own. And I do think it's something you have to fight for, and even more right now.
Yeah. Name of the show?
Oh, the Gabby Reece Show, because I'm so original.
We'll have that for everybody in the show notes where you're listening to this. Of course, you can find the Gabby Reece Show.
And if people want, they can backlog by the time they hear this and hear your show. I think they'll get to see a very different side of you. And I really appreciated your openness and vulnerability, because I think we need to give each other permission to understand that the real strength is the capacity to be vulnerable. And it's very nuanced, but I think when we talk about those gears, that spectrum, the stronger we are gives us the greater capacity to be more vulnerable. And so to encourage people to explore both sides, I think is really important. So Thank you for doing that.
Of course. Thank you for making the environment to where it was natural and it felt really good. Like leaving, first of all, let me just be clear with this. All right. Okay. There was a lot going on even getting to you that day. And my mind was trying to opt out. And it was the best thing that I've done in a long time was sitting with you and talking with you. It was so needed and so good for my spirit. I didn't even know how much I needed that. And so thank you, because it's not this stuff. It's who you are. You can't shake it off of you. You made it so I felt comfortable and I felt seen, you know, and you're a very special person. You're a great person. And I just appreciate you so much. Thank you for even, I know it's a trek even to get
It's
over
nothing.
here.
I would go anywhere to see you. And you'll tell my teenage daughters, right, that I'm just kidding. I want to end this conversation when we talk, because we talk so much about athletics. So most of us have to have a screw loose really to be good at sport, right? It's something, you're proving something. There's a few people, I'm always interested in, like, you know, like certain people you go, well, the Manning brothers seem like they're emotionally well adjusted, but they somehow were great. Okay, good for them. You know, they might be the one or two. So I just want to remind people that sport is just a stage. It's just a classroom to learn all the valuable lessons. And it's really those lessons that how they help your life is really actually what you want. So if people could find their stage to get those lessons, I think it can be as beneficial as, oh, you were a college or a high school or professional athlete.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
You're the best.
Thanks.
Hey, if you like this video, make sure to check out this video right here.
The history of the calorie is so interesting. A calorie is a measure of heat, and it was originally devised or came from a guy named Wilbur Atwater in the late 1890s. And he basically put foods into a bomb calorimeter, burned them up, and looked to see how much heat a food creates.